The views expressed in this show are those of the authors and do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of the Department of Defense, Department of the Navy, or the U.S. government.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Philosophication with Ginger and the Beard. This is Jason. For this episode, Michael and I had a conversation about a fatal police shooting incident that took place in Maryland recently. If you're watching on YouTube, you'll see that story from CBS News on your screen right now, and no matter where you're listening, the story will be linked in the description of this episode, so in case you want to look at it for yourself, you can. We do briefly summarize what happened, but mostly we discussed the implications of the incident itself and also red flag laws in general, so it might be a good idea to go read that story for yourself to get the full context. Thanks for listening and enjoy the show.
All right, so yeah, there's this incident, and it happened in Anne Arundel County. I don't know if you knew that.
Yeah, I caught that.
Maryland
Academy.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't at the Academy, but yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't in Annapolis, but it was same county anyway. So I'll just give you my understanding of what happened and kind of my first thoughts about it, like what my initial reaction was, and then we can kind of go from there. So cops got a tip from some relative of this guy and got a court order from a judge saying that they can come to this guy's house and confiscate his guns temporarily. I don't know how long it's for, but that's the law now in Maryland. It's not that old of a law either. I think it's only been a thing for like a month or two or something like that. But anyway, the cops show up at this guy's house at 5 a.m. from what I read, which that already sketches me out because it's like they're trying to catch him off guard. I mean, I don't know what the reason was, like why they would feel the need to show up at early o'clock like that, but it just sketches me out. And apparently the guy answered the door with a gun in his hand, and the cops told him, serve him the court order, and he resisted. There was a physical scuffle. His gun went off but didn't hit anybody, and then one of the cops shot him and he died. So I guess bad move on the guy's part to resist. Like I gotta think, if you're in that situation, you're not helping yourself by resisting. I mean, I get it's probably a little bit idealistic to think, cold dead hands or whatever, but you're probably not helping your situation by resisting. So I think that was a bad move. I also, it seems odd to answer the door with a gun in your hand, which I feel like some people might say that, but I kind of feel like, I'm putting myself in this guy's shoes, and it's 5 o'clock in the fucking morning and somebody's banging on your door. Like, I get up to go to work at 5 in the morning, and I'm never expecting anyone to be at my house at 5 a.m. So I wake up at 5 a.m. and hear to the sound of somebody banging on my door. I'm like, what the fuck? I might very well answer the door with a gun in my hand. So, I don't know. But it's just sketchy. Like, I don't necessarily think that this incident means that the law is bad and that we shouldn't have laws like that. But I don't know. My instinct as a libertarian is to be like, what the fuck? This is horrifying. I don't know. What's your first impression?
Yeah. This is really interesting for me because I don't know. I did the gun control episode of my podcast, and at the very end I talk about solutions that I'm okay with, and like what we can do to curb violence, and this is one of the laws that I said I was okay with. Now granted,
I remember us talking about that before.
Yeah, like granted, the specifics of Maryland's law, I don't know, so I don't know that I even support it the way it's written in Maryland, but in general I was supportive of being able to temporarily take people's guns who are a clear threat to themselves or others, and that it would require a whole lot of, reasonable cause, and that it would be temporary, very short term, and that to keep it going, there'd have to be evidence that he is a threat, like hard evidence, not just reasonable, or not just probable cause anymore. Probable cause will get you the initial, like, suspension of the, the right to have the gun. But then it would take like hard evidence to keep it away, just maybe a couple weeks or something like that. So I kind of spell it out how it would have to be, that there has to be due process. There'd have to be a judge doing it, a court order. It has to be temporary. There has to be an appeals process. And it would have to take a great deal of evidence to keep it. But,
Yeah.
this whole, like, Maryland added like this secret shit to it where they don't have to like disclose why they're doing it. That's why they're not, like, that's why it's unclear from reading that article why the guy was even getting his guns taken away. But
yeah, that's something I didn't understand. Like, I know a relative of his called it in, like, and got it, got the court order, but I don't know why they did it.
Right. So the point is, I supported it in general. That doesn't mean I supported what Maryland did. I'm not sure what they did. And I'm sure each state has their own little nuances and their own things. And I'm sure nobody's probably doing it exactly right.
Yeah.
But this was a big game changer for me. Like, when I was listening to that, I was just sitting there like that, when I listened to the video you sent me, I was just sitting there like, oh my God, how did I not think of this? Like,
yeah.
For reasons I talked about in the episode on gun control that I did, which again, if you haven't heard it, like, you've heard it, so whatever. It's very pro-gun, and anti a lot of gun control. But it seemed like an easy thing to give. But man, I never thought about that. I never thought about that part.
Yeah, and it seems so.
Government. I never thought about the part where the government comes and knocks on your door to take them. And it's like, holy shit, man. Like, they showed up to this guy's house. He had done nothing wrong. And they killed him. Right?
Yeah.
Like, I understand the circumstances and, he should have complied. He shouldn't have had his gun, whatever. But like, this is the dystopia that everyone's worried about. This one example, right? This one example.
Let's go ahead and say, like, I'm sure the cop didn't mean to kill him.
Right.
Cops are just doing their job. If you're in a physical scuffle and there's a gun involved, of course the cops are going to defend themselves. But
right.
Yeah.
I don't blame the cops at all.
Yeah.
But this is what people are afraid of. Like this. Again, I don't want to overblow it, right? But this little sample is the epitome of what everyone's so afraid of. The government came, knocked on your door to take your guns. Now, and he hadn't done anything wrong. Okay. So to all those people, like you said, now it's easy to think about this guy being like deranged or something, but there's no evidence right now that we can see that was the case. But to all those guys out there with those T-shirts that say "Cold Dead Hands" or "Molan Labe" or fucking "Come and Take It," right? This is what they're talking about.
This is literally their paranoid nightmare.
Right. So what would you do if you're half the man you say you are and you wear that T-shirt? You would have your gun and you wouldn't give it up, and that would invariably end with a gunfight, right? Because that's the great truth that people don't think about, is that every single law is at the end of a gun. Like, it's all enforceable by force. Usually it doesn't come to that.
It's such an obvious thing in retrospect. It's like, of course this was going to happen. Yeah. Like, every law has to have the threat of force behind it, or it's not a real law. So, I mean, I don't think either of us thought of this when we were talking about this last, and you didn't mention it in the episode, but like, yeah, of course this was going to happen.
Yeah. It's so obvious. You're right. And like, how could I don't exactly know how I feel. Like, I know that I hate it. I know that I don't like it. And I don't know if I totally am ready to drop support of it. I'm still contemplating it. Right. Like I may totally drop that. And this is a good reason. And then another good reason, besides this example we should have been able to think of, is I guess when I think about it, it kind of goes against my very deepest principle that I've been talking about in like every episode I've done, which is the the idea that confidence is everywhere the parent of despotism, like Thomas Jefferson said. The idea that trust is 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 the end of the republic. That jealousy of federal power is the only way to protect our liberty. And
Yeah.
so, the question I always ask is, what would a tyrant do with this power? And it's so easy to see how this power could be abused. You know what I mean? Not just some, like if I hate you, I could just call the cops and say, hey, this guy's nuts. Go take his guns, right? And if
Yeah.
nothing else, I mean, you'll get your guns back, right? Because they'll show that you're not actually nuts, but they still came to your door and took your gun, right?
Well, that's what it depends on. I mean, that's what it depends on to me. Like I said, I don't necessarily think like this incident doesn't necessarily make me automatically think that this law is bad and that we shouldn't have laws like that. Because it depends on what criteria have to be met to take someone's guns away. Like if all it takes is a call from somebody who knows the person, that's bullshit. Like that should not be a thing, even if it's temporary. Because what we're talking about is like what laws like this are is temporarily restricting someone's constitutionally guaranteed right for consequentialist reasons. Like both with the law as a whole, we're saying that having this law is going to, like, the net effect is going to be positive with having the law, and also in any particular case. Like they're saying, by taking someone's guns away, you're saying the net effect of temporarily restricting a person's right to keep and bear arms is going to be positive. The net effect is going to be positive. And like every other consequentialist argument for anything, it's just hard because it's incredibly difficult, if not impossible, to predict the consequences of things. Like this very well could have prevented the next mass shooting, but we will never know that. Like we have no way of knowing that. And I'm just always uneasy about doing things for consequentialist reasons because it's so hard to predict consequences, and it involves restricting rights. And we do put restrictions on rights. Like we do that. That's a thing that we do, but I just don't know. I don't know if this rises to the level of being worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I still got to think about it. I'm kind of leaning towards, rescinding my support for this type of law. Now, again, maybe there's a nuanced way to do it that can still work. But yeah, when I put myself in a person's shoes who the police come to take your guns and you've done nothing wrong, that's horrifying to think about. If I put myself in that guy's shoes, that is the exact, scenario that everyone's so afraid of. And then the second part being that this can so easily be abused, right?
Yeah. That's
And that
That's
guy,
my
what's his
thing.
name? The guy that video you showed me.
Tim Pool.
Yeah, he mentioned it when he was talking about like small towns with corrupt sheriffs or corrupt mayors, and it's like, I don't know how anyone even thinks that's loopy or conspiracy theory. Clearly, there are, like, all over the country, there's random little, like, local or state or county or even federal, certainly, but at those levels, corruption is a thing. Like, not everywhere, but some places it's a thing. And,
Yeah, we're just seeing it in Broward County with the election. Like
yeah.
it's right there. Like that's corrupt as shit.
Right. So I don't know. Now it sounds paranoid, but it's like it's the common theme for everything I've been talking about, everything the founders cared about, which is that we don't trust the government. We don't trust them with power. That if Hitler could get elected and take control, would he be able to tyrannize us with this power? And obviously you can with this, that the government can do this gun restraining order, come to your house, take it under the guise of whatever the hell, and and they can select who they want to take it from. Maybe you post a bad tweet that they don't like, whatever. This isn't, people think it's conspiracy theory, but this is the way you have to think if you want to preserve freedom. You have to think worst case scenario. Stop assuming the best intentions of our leaders and instead assume the absolute worst. Don't give them a chance to tyrannize us, right? So
Yeah.
with that thought in mind, and then, put myself in his shoes, I still, all my pro statements for it back when I said I support it, I still believe that, I still feel the same way, but now I have this opposing, value, you know what I mean? These opposing values. And I think it's, I still got to think about it and see how I feel, but I'm kind of leaning towards rescinding my support for this kind of law.
I think it depends on, it's kind of hard to say whether or not you support red flag laws in general without knowing the specifics of each one in each case, because it depends a whole lot on the criteria. Like what burden of evidence has to be met in order to take someone's guns away, even temporarily.
Right. Yeah. Like it'd be one thing if they literally threatened to go shoot up a school or something.
Yeah. But I mean, even with something like that, then you have to ask, is the red flag law even necessary? Because if somebody makes a threat like that, I mean, I don't know if that rises to the level of a crime, but it could. I mean, certainly.
I think you need some sort of law because,
yeah.
You heard Sam Harris talking about it in his gun episode about how, or no, was it the gun episode? Somewhere he was talking about how he knows from personal experience being threatened over and over again by the same person, like that the cops can't actually do anything about it. Like, I'm sure at some point a threat is credible enough to be taken as a crime, but yeah, I don't know. If a guy, maybe it's not a threat and a guy is like online just, I don't know, idealizing other mass shooters from the past and like, I don't know, just has, watches videos of, squirrels being killed or something, like, I don't know, something crazy, right? But
yeah.
Now, that doesn't take away the part that I'm scared of, which is the abuse of this power, right? That part is,
that's the thing.
Be there,
It's a good idea in theory, and this is one of the gun control measures. We always talk about how a lot of the gun control measures that the left puts forward after mass shootings have nothing to do with the shooting. It's like, even if we had this law in place, it would not have prevented the shooting. But this is different. Like, there are definite cases you can point to where, maybe if we had a law like this, the shooting wouldn't have happened. But again, it's you can't. That's with the benefit of hindsight. Like, you can't know that. Yeah. You can't know that any particular use of this law actually prevented a shooting. So it's kind of a catch-22 where you don't. It's the same problem with every other consequentialist argument. Like, the consequences are just terrible, like horribly difficult to predict. So I don't know. It for me, it depends on. I don't necessarily think red flag laws are a bad idea across the board. I think they're a good idea in theory, but it seems like the kind of thing, like you said, that could be very easily abused if it's not implemented very carefully. So I guess it just depends on the criteria. I don't know what the right criteria is, but that's what it depends on. Like, it can't just be someone calls you in and tells the cops that you threatened someone and then they come take your guns away. That can't be it.
Yeah.
It has to be something more than that. I don't know how much more, but something more.
Yeah. I'm sure the different states probably have different specifics about that, whether it has to be a family member or a doctor or, immediate family or extended family or whatever. There's probably specifics You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
yeah. But I mean, I'm less worried about that. I mean, it's possible for some vindictive person to call in something falsely. I'm less worried about that and more worried about, you know, putting too much power, like putting that power into the hands of the government. You know what I mean? Um, I'm more worried about, you know, the what would a tyrant do with this power?
Yeah.
So, um, yeah. So this is a really tough one, and uh, yeah, there's something also just fundamentally crazy about they're showing up to take your property, and the fact that it's a gun is one thing, but the government is knocking on your door to take your property. You know what I mean? And you haven't done anything wrong. That's another thing. And it's like, frankly, this guy had every right to shoot them, right? Like, I mean, that's unpopular opinion, but nothing about being a cop, in my opinion, makes you like like the right to defend yourself and your property doesn't change when it's the police. Now, legally, you're going to get in trouble, but morally speaking, right? Which is morals is supposed to be where our laws come from, right?
Yeah.
Morally speaking, you know, if the government is coming into your home to take your shit, right? Or some random person is coming into your home to take your shit. Obviously, legally, if you shoot one or the other, you will get in a different amount of trouble, right?
Yeah.
But morally speaking, you have just as much of a right to defend yourself, to defend your life, your liberty, and your property from anyone, right? So I don't know. It's almost like when it's different. But when you think of that cop, that lady cop who came in Texas and shot that guy in his own apartment and said she thought it was her apartment. Like,
Yeah.
she's like, she was giving him commands and he wasn't obeying. It's like, granted,
Yeah. You have
the
no
difference
right
is
to give
she
him
was
commands.
the difference is she was so clearly in the wrong there, and these cops were doing exactly their job.
Yeah.
But to the victim, to the person who got shot, how do you know, if they're there for a good reason? How do you, I mean, okay, yeah, maybe they present a warrant. So, but like, just on its face, you know, how do you know what their intention is, why they're there, if they were sent for a good reason?
Yeah, that's another question I have about this. Like when they show up and serve the guy the court order, does the court order say why his guns are being taken away? Or does it just say that they can take them? Like, I don't know.
I think
Because that makes a
if it's
difference.
anything like a search warrant, which I would hope it would be, I'm pretty sure those say why they're there and what they're looking for, specifically, where they're looking. So I would think, I mean, it depends on how Maryland did the law, but I would hope that it would, you know, say why. But I don't know. It's interesting. Like when the guy said in the video, like you got to just give them up. You got to do what you're told. From a survivalist standpoint, I get that, but from a moral standpoint, I disagree. You are like, it is your property. You don't have to obey anyone inside your house, right? You don't have to, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's
You could have just murdered somebody and you are literally, they're coming to arrest you, and you still, morally speaking, have some sort of right in your own property, in your own house, whatever, to defend yourself. You know what I mean? Like, you could be completely in the wrong and you still have a right to defend your life, right? And this guy's life, turns out, was on the line, right? Now, certainly it was his fault that it went that far, but I'm sure the cops didn't know that when they showed up. No one probably thought about that. But yeah, next time if they come knocking on your door, then you got to wonder how this is going to go down.
Yeah, that's what I meant by bad idea for him to resist.
Yeah, I agree, and
it's
from a survival standpoint, very bad idea.
Yeah, but, like, you're not doing yourself any favors.
Yeah,
I mean, even if you have the right to morally, you're not doing yourself any favors.
Right.
But the other thing about this, like, go ahead.
I was just saying, practically speaking.
Yeah.
Because if you take the opposite to its progression, you're going to end up either dead or in jail for the rest of your life. So
yeah, you're going to either die yourself or you're going to kill a cop, which is going to be really bad too.
Mm-hmm.
So
Right. So
bad idea.
You would reserve that for actual doomsday tyranny, fucking rebellion or something, not just, you alone are getting screwed over, right?
Yeah.
So,
but the other thing about this, like the fact that they showed up at 5 a.m.
Yeah.
Like I don't know why they would do that. Like why not come at a normal hour?
Yeah.
It's because it looks to me like they did that on purpose to catch the guy off guard. I don't know why else they would show up at early o'clock in the morning like that.
Yeah,
like
what might help? What might have prevented this?
Yeah, if you show up at a normal hour and knock on the guy's door and not surprise him when he's probably just getting out of bed or still asleep.
Right. Or even better, give him a call and say, "Sir, we will be at your house in 10 minutes. We're coming to take your gun." Right? Like there's no surprise. He knows it's coming. He could. Now, would that change it? I mean, if he has in his mind, I'm not giving this up, I will fight for it, then it doesn't matter. But there's that difference in that element of surprise, in that catching someone off guard, and I don't know, like you can limit these altercations, these misunderstandings, if that's what it is, by just, I'm not saying call them so far ahead of time that they have time to go shoot people. I'm saying call them with enough time that when you're about to knock on the door, they know what's coming.
I'm not so sure about that. I think from the cop's point of view, if I was coming to take somebody's guns and I don't know if he's going to be one of those people who is going to hold on to it at all costs, I don't think I would want to give him heads up. Like I think,
well, didn't you get this scenario? I mean, if it was 7 a.m. instead of 5.
Well, yeah, I mean,
saying you avoid this scenario.
that could be the difference between, like, if you call the guy 10 minutes ahead of time, he could very well just be sitting at his window waiting to shoot you when you pull up in the car. Right?
Or you can knock on the door and he can come and shoot you. If he's that, like, it doesn't, he's either like that or he's not, and it doesn't change that. It doesn't, if a guy's like that, I don't see it making you any worse off by calling 10 minutes early. But if he's not like that, and then you want to avoid some sort of surprise, misunderstanding, altercation, then, and you're taking away someone's rights, and they've done nothing wrong. They deserve to know. You know what I mean? Like, he hasn't broken a law yet, So, I don't know. That's another thing. I feel like that's a courtesy that could avoid this kind of tragedy, perhaps, unless they are a psycho that's going to kill cops. But again, unless you kick the door in and catch them totally off guard, and even then, you're probably more likely to get shot if they have their gun nearby, if you kick in the door, right? But I don't know. I think even when cops go serve search warrants and crap, they only don't call them so that they can't hide shit, right? But I don't know.
Yeah, I don't agree with the calling ahead of time, but I do think, like, show up at a normal hour. Anybody would be paranoid if they got woken up at 5 a.m. by somebody banging on their door, no matter who it was. Like, I mean, you just roll out of bed to the sound of somebody banging on your door. Like, you don't know it's a cop. Like, of course, I could reasonably see that maybe I would answer the door with a gun in my hand. Like,
yeah,
I don't know.
Okay. Maybe somewhere in the middle is you call the guy, like you're standing on his porch, then you call the guy instead of knocking. Like, he's like, "Hey, we're here. We're coming. We're here to get your guns." And then you fucking knock immediately. So the only difference is now he knows why someone's knocking, and he doesn't have time to do anything. But the difference is now he's not going to show up to the door with his gun because he doesn't know what's going on. If he shows up at the door with his gun, it's because he wants to fight and kill cops, which, he's either like that or he's not,
Yeah.
So I don't know. I see that. I think the scenario you're trying to avoid is, I don't know. If the guy's like that, it won't make a difference. If he isn't like that, you might avoid this kind of tragedy. So
yeah.
That's the way I see it. But yeah, I guess I could see
definitely show up at a normal hour of the day.
Yeah. if he is like that, you give him less of an advantage if you don't give him as much of a heads up. But it's not even a heads up if you call when you're on the porch. It's not a heads up at all, except just you don't have to wonder why someone's at the door. So anyway, yeah, I don't know. I think I have to chalk this up to, like so many other proposed, common sense gun control laws. It seems like a good idea. Seemed like a good idea at the time, but
Yeah.
there are consequences that, if you think it through, aren't worth it. So, and maybe some nuance can help. I don't know, maybe not, but yeah, I think I might have to throw this one out. Just like,
Yeah, I think really, I was unsure coming into this conversation what I thought about it, but I think after talking about it a little bit, I think for me, it would hinge on what the criteria are.
Yeah.
Like if it's, I don't know, in order to restrict someone's constitutionally guaranteed rights, I think there has to be a pretty high bar as far as burden of evidence, even if it's temporary.
Yeah, but see, I always thought that, and I specified that. The difference here is how it happened, is that a guy was shot to death in his house. Like that was the difference. That I should have seen that coming, and that totally changes everything. Granted, every law has that possibility, but, I don't know. That's just super not okay. That scenario is horrible, and that scenario is unavoidable with this law. So it's a good idea. It seems like it could be effective, but that is a horrible downside. And I don't think it's worth it, and then obviously the abuse, the too much power. What would a tyrant do with this? I don't know. But anyway, that's, I think I'll say something along those lines on my own show, maybe a short little something on unalienable, because to the people that listen to that, I did straight up endorse this, and now this came out, and I feel like I need to say something about it. So,
Yeah. Yeah. If nothing else, then for a little bit of clarity.
Yeah. That's it for today's show. Thanks everybody for tuning in. So if you're watching on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button below. If you're listening on any of our other audio platforms, please make sure you subscribe, leave ratings or comments. It really helps algorithmically in getting the word out about our show. If you like the show, please share it with your friends on social media. Please like the Philosophication with Ginger and the Beard Facebook page. And please make sure you comment down below. We really want to engage you guys in free and open conversation. That's really the whole point of doing this. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time.